Greetings, Cleveland, and welcome to Creative Focus, the show that illuminates some of Cleveland's most talented and creative artists across the genres of dance, film, music, theater, and visual arts. I'm your host, Cornell Calhoun III, and I'm thrilled to have as my guest today on Creative Focus the author of Learning to Dance in the Rain, Miss Daria Scheafe. Daria, welcome to Creative Focus. Let's chop it up, girl.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
So now, what's the secret to dancing in the rain? I have to ask.
The secret, okay, learning to dance in the rain is about overcoming storms. Life is going to keep throwing them at you. So it's about, the actual quote is by Vivian Green. And it starts by saying, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's learning to dance in the rain.
Wow, okay. Now I got some understanding. That's great. So you're a native Clevelander.
Born and raised.
You went to Beaumont High School.
I did.
The Blue Streaks, is that right?
Actually, I started at Beaumont.
Okay.
But I then transferred to Cleveland Central Catholic.
Okay.
The Iron Men.
The Iron Men, okay. So what was the inspiration for the book, Learning to Dance in the Rain?
Well, in conversation with different friends, we share. That's what women do. We share with one another about different trials and tribulations in our life. And on numerous occasions, people would say, girl, you need to write a book. And then a dear friend of mine named Kathy said 3 or 4 times, you really need to write a book. And so there was my inspiration. I felt that I didn't go through these storms just to be going through them. I felt like there was supposed to be some purpose, and the purpose was to help somebody else. So how could I let God get the glory if I didn't tell the story? Okay.
So, in writing autobiographies, there's always a discovery process, inflection. What did you learn about yourself in the creation of this wonderful book?
I learned a lot. I learned that I had not healed from some of my childhood storms, if you will. I learned that I saw through the process of the book where I learned to rely on my strength and where my strength came from. So as it starts out, I'm religious, but not spiritual. But by the end of the book, you see my faith develop. So it was very therapeutic and healing for me.
So do you think, let me ask you this question, how did Cleveland, your neighborhood, influence the creation of the book, if it did at all, would you say?
I think absolutely your environment plays a huge part in your development. So our house on a Friday evening growing up was like most in the Mount Pleasant area. Aunts and uncles over and the music going and, dancing and lively. So that family environment, that was a part of Cleveland. I think there was a company, Carling Black Label Beer back in the day. And, the aunts and the uncles over and just a good time. It was like a party every Friday night.
So why did you choose that title? I mean, was that the title? Because, a lot of times writers will select a title and then kind of fit the story into the title. And often they just write the story and then the title comes to them. How was that process for you?
For me, that quote became my mantra.
Okay.
Because, just like everybody else, everybody's got a story and everybody's had some trials. So when I saw that quote, I had to get it, to put it up somewhere in my home. Because I love to dance. And so it just kind of all tied in that the storms are going to keep coming. So you can't hide from them or wait from the past. You're going to have to learn to dance through them.
And what impact do you want the book to have on your audience, or would you like to have on your audience?
I would love for the book to, number one, entertain, be engaging. I want people to learn that trouble don't last always, and that there is joy on the other side of the storm. So you have to learn how to maneuver while you're in it, which is the difficult part.
How long did it take you to write the book, roughly?
It took about 2 years, starting and stopping, and I did have a writing coach, and she kind of got frustrated with me and quit. She said, I'll talk to you when you're ready. But something she said to me was that only 3% of authors actually end up with a tangible product. And so I didn't want to be in that 97%. I was like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish. So once I retired, it afforded me more time to devote to the book.
On a normal day, how much time did you spend writing? Just on a normal day, would you say?
Well, on a normal day, probably 45 minutes.
Okay.
Until I retired.
Right. Okay.
Then once I retired, I decided I had maybe 3/4 of the book done. And so I said, okay, now this is my job. So I would get up in the morning, have my coffee, and go sit and act like I was at work. Turn the phone off, maybe 3 hours, and then take a break, go get something to eat, and then come back and do another hour or two until I was finally finished.
Okay, so are you the type of writer, because I know when I first started writing, I like to write after midnight, 2, 3 in the morning, and then, did you have a set time or?
Yeah, it wasn't after midnight. No, I had to, I'm very much a morning person.
Okay.
So my process would be that morning coffee, and then go upstairs in the building where I live, because there's a lot of glass. So I just felt free up there. So I would go up there first thing in the morning.
Did you ever get writer's block? And if you did, what did you do? I mean, some people say they don't get writer's block, but
I wouldn't say I got writer's block, because it was my story. And so there really wasn't a block. I knew my story. I got distracted.
Obviously, sure.
Many times, and decided, okay, well, I don't want to write now. Let me do something else. But I wouldn't say I got writer's block, because the story was there. I just had to make time to sit down and.
So did you have an official book signing?
I did.
Let's talk about that. How did that turn out?
I was so excited to share with my family and friends, because one of the ways that I actually got disciplined and stayed with it was the fact that I started telling people. My coach said, you need to tell people that you're writing a book. And so I didn't want to be one of those people that, my friends would be like, yeah, she says she's writing, never see an end product, you know what I mean? So
right.
That gave me some accountability. And then because so many people supported me through the process, I had a book signing in that same space that was my favorite writing space on my birthday.
And where was it at? The photos were just incredible. Where was the space?
It's I live at the View, and it was on the 4th floor terrace. Oh, okay. And I love that area because you can see the whole horizon. It's a freeing type environment. So we had a really good time.
Yeah. I just wanted to read a couple of statements that people made about this incredible book that touched me. The book touched all of my emotions: laughter, empathy, sadness, admiration, etc. I read through your journey of life. Your courage is so candid and admirable. The ending was both sad and beautiful. I eagerly await the sequel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And another one, Learning to Dance in the Rain offers a stirring, intimate experience of the author's perseverance and growth in the face of repeated hardships and loss. So this book made an impression on people. What do you say to that?
It warms my heart. It warms my heart. It makes me feel that the goal was accomplished. I hadn't seen those reviews.
Yeah.
There were a few people that, well,
yeah,
we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting there. Some people that know me personally, I asked them, people who are readers, I asked them for candid feedback because, you know, this is my debut book, and so I didn't know what effect it would have or the quality of the writing. So that just warms my heart.
Yeah, the quality is superb. So now that you're a published author, what do you think are some of the most important elements that a person needs to incorporate in their work, especially autobiographies? What do you think sells the people? Why people would respond to that?
Well,
in that
my
way?
cousin was one of the first to give me feedback. And of course, there probably was a little bias in there.
You're right, yeah, oh, of course.
But she said, this was like a Lifetime movie. I said, okay. So it's important that during the course of telling your story, that you engage the reader. It has to be entertaining, and that's what I was trying to do. Entertain them, make it descriptive enough so that they felt they were sitting right there with me. Also, in telling an autobiography, you have to be very careful that you're telling your autobiography, because the other people around me that were connected to me, it wouldn't be fair for me to tell their story. So I purposefully left out names and gave each person in the book a different name.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point, because if you're not careful, you know, you're telling somebody's story.
Exactly.
And they may not want that story told.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. So you were a nurse by trade, right? And you had a incredible nursing program, Aspire program that you talk about that.
That was my baby. I love that program. I felt like every job I had prior to that was preparing me for that role. That role, the program is for underrepresented high school students to introduce them to the field and a career in nursing, and then support them through college, all the way through the program until they take their NCLEX exam and become a licensed registered nurse and work for the Cleveland Clinic. So it's creating a pipeline of diverse nurses into the Cleveland Clinic. And I was blessed enough to be hired to implement the program, and it became part of me.
It's called Aspire, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And about how many students have gone through the program now, ballpark, would you say?
Probably close to 100.
And how old is the program now?
I'm sorry?
And how old is the program?
It was started in 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the students come into the program as high school juniors, and they are supported with resources, and we remove barriers to make them successful in a medical career. It's supported by the Howley program, the Howley Foundation, I'm sorry, and the Cleveland Clinic joined together for this amazing program, and that's what it is. It's an amazing program. We do have, just when I retired, I was able to do that with a clear head because some of the first students have now become Cleveland Clinic nurses and are working there. So I wanted to say that I knew that people would always ask me, you know, what was it about that program that was so dear to you. And so it kind of felt like that was my purpose. And Dr. Miles Monroe says that it's not what you can accomplish, it's what you transfer. So that gave me the opportunity to transfer my love for that field to students.
Do you still talk to some of your former students?
Absolutely. I'm always just a phone call away. I stay in touch.
Daria, so do you think being in the medical profession influenced the writing at all? And if so, how do you think?
I don't think it necessarily influenced my writing, but it was my story.
Okay.
Early on in the book, in chapter 2, I start talking about the hurricane. And the hurricane is a person. And we both worked in the medical field. And I didn't realize it, but back then in the early 80s, you didn't see a lot of minorities in professional roles in the hospital. That was one of the discoveries that came about in writing this book. Children that were young when I was, a new nurse, tell me now, you guys were a power couple, a nurse and a respiratory therapist. We didn't see that in our community. I never knew who was watching.
What was the biggest challenge in writing, learning how to dance in the rain, would you say, for you?
I think reliving some of the storms. Those were some of the times that I actually had to stop, either because I was crying or it was too heavy. So I'd just take a break, and sometimes I'd come right back, and sometimes I may not come back to it for a month.
Are you an avid reader yourself?
I am. However, I have not been reading many books lately because I had to focus on reading what I was doing, trying to make sure. But I did read books along the way to figure out what my style was.
How do you think authors should handle criticism? Because, no matter how great or wonderful a manuscript is, there's always going to be someone, for whatever reason, to, cut it up. A lot of times justified, sometimes unjustified. How do you think an author should handle that? Especially when you know what you wrote is saying a particular thing, but you've got somebody telling you it's not. What would you think? Just in your
Make
opinion.
your haters your motivators? I don't know. Fortunately, I have not encountered that yet. I'm sure it's coming.
Not necessarily,
You say usually, so I don't know. I'm prepared, though. I'm prepared for it. I think as long as you know that it's constructive criticism, if the source of that is coming from a good place, then I embrace it, because it's going to make you a better writer. You write for the reader. They're your consumer. So you really need to pay attention to what they have to say. I haven't run into those criticisms yet, or maybe I won't. Like you said, maybe I won't. But I think as long as I can determine that it's coming from a place of constructive criticism, it'll be fine. You have to embrace it.
Define a success for an author in your respects. How would you do you think monetary, or is it just the knowledge that you've put something out and that, according to some reviews, people enjoy it?
Sometimes there's tangible ways to measure, like the number of books, or I don't know the number of books I've sold, but success for me is just what you read there. I had not seen those reviews, and to know that the goal that I set out for, to inspire people, to entertain people, to let them know that there is joy on the other side, It's a success.
And what's your dream? What's your ceiling for this book? I mean, is it a movie? Is it
Tyler Perry?
Tyler Perry. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And how do you want to navigate to get that done? I'm just asking because I'm in the process of trying to get him to read something of mine. What's your process?
I'm starting here.
Okay.
Actually, my pastor gave me the first platform to sit down and talk about the book. So this is the second opportunity I've had to sit down and talk about the book and reach people and encourage people to buy the book. So it's just going to spread like wildfire. You know, I declare that.
I believe it.
I declare that.
And what's your next project?
I'm glad you asked that question. I've already started on the sequel. This book was marketed as the first of two. So this is Learning to Dance in the Rain, and then the sequel is After the Rain.
After the Rain. I thought you were going to say After the Dance. After the Rain. Okay.
No, there's dancing all through. It's always going to be a dance.
Always going to be a dance.
Always going to be a dance.
Now, where can people buy Learning to Dance in the Rain?
So the preferred method is through PayPal. I have the links available for people to purchase through PayPal. It is available on Amazon.
Okay.
However, the royalty split there is not in my favor.
Right.
So I would prefer if people would use the links that I provided for purchasing through PayPal.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I was excited to be here.
My pleasure. Well, that's it, Cleveland. We're out. But remember, a true artist is not only inspired, but inspires others. I'm Cornell Calhoun III for TV 20 and Creative Focus. Until the next time becomes our time, be well, be safe.